Hi, very good afternoon to you. It's Gene from Avstar. Just wanted to share a few things with you that you probably wouldn't know or have heard about. Obviously, media is not picking up on a certain few things that's happened in the last week, but I'm happy to tell them and share them with you. We're looking at the QE aircraft carrier. That's broken down. It is in Scotland. It's broken down again. This is a £4 billion aircraft carrier, brand spanking new, and it breaks down nearly every time it goes out. Just makes you wonder whether it'll ever be fit for purpose, if ever it's needed. And from what I can gather, the Philip aircraft carrier is also broken down at the moment. So we've got two aircraft carriers and none of them are fit for sea at the moment. You know, add that to the Trident nuclear missiles that we got that fail to launch or don't work, as was tested a couple of months ago. You know, it just puts it into perspective that we are not fit for an engagement should we need to be. And there's something else that you're not going to hear as well. Did you know that the Royal Navy computer system was hacked during the last week? Yeah, think about that. And on top of that, what you won't hear is that several companies, very large companies, this week were also hacked. One company in particular was losing £1 million a day because the systems had not only been hacked, but the backup system had been wiped as well. Left the company, even to this day, unable to go about its normal day business. I'm not going to mention names or anything like that, but if you do a little bit of research, you'll soon find out what companies I'm talking about. You know, we're in a sad state in this country. You know, we've got an army of 70,000 strong. Think about that. The opening day of theatre, the war theatre in Ukraine, Russia had over 100,000 troops on the border. We've got 70,000. But we know all the money that's going to Ukraine right now isn't being spent on what it should be. And Ukraine should do the right thing because it's lost that war. Russia, if you look at its objectives at the beginning of the war, it has achieved them and achieved them for months now. It's time for a truce or some negotiations to take place to stop that war escalating any further, because eventually there will be no one left in that country alive. You know, if they keep, reducing the age for enrolment, statutory enrolment, meaning that they've got to join the armed forces, there won't be no males in that country. So, it needs to stop. And, it's the same in Rafah, in Israel at the moment, in Palestine. They're just slaughtering innocent people now for no reason. And the United Nations say how disgusting it is, but it just shows you how much power they've got when it comes to Israel, because they can't stop Israel doing what they're doing. And there isn't a government around the world that will stand up and do the right thing and call a ceasefire. So it's across the range with everything. You look at the science and all the anomalies that are going on around this world. I mean, we've had a mini heat wave, you could call it that, the last few days in the UK, where the temperatures have got up to about 24.5 degrees. And, I saw people walking around unprotected, no sun cream, nothing, and they was only out in the sun for an hour and they'd gone red. Well, it shouldn't come to a surprise as anybody, that not only have we had those X-class flares come off the sun, which has meant that, we've been radiated to the point where, we saw the aurora in central England. This is an anomaly that is, only usually witnessed from, very northern territories, not the UK. But it's a sign that our magnetosphere is weakening as we speak, teeny bit by teeny bit. When you go out and you get sunburned for just being out there for 30 minutes or an hour, it's an indication that the magnetosphere is weakened. When you see auroras in central England, the aurora borealis, when you see that, you know that that's not normal. When you see sundogs at this latitude, another Arctic anomaly, that's not normally witnessed at these latitudes. When you see cirrus clouds on a clear day, when the sky's blue and you've got these like wavy, feathery clouds, it's not, all these things are not new, but you know what? We slowly but gradually get accustomed to seeing them, and it's like, it's always been there, but it's not the case. Our Earth is going through a rare anomaly. Last time was 12,000 years ago. That was the excursion where the poles failed to reverse and went back to where there was originally. Before that, it was 780,000 years ago. And you won't hear about this on the news for some reason. They might just gloss over the topic here and there, probably twice a year, but then you won't hear much after that. But it's the biggest thing that mankind has ever been through. It really is a big anomaly, and we don't know what the outcome is going to lead to. Are we losing our magnetic field permanently? Is the question that should be asked. If they're saying that the core of the Earth is slowing down, well, obviously it will do during a magnetic reversal, but will it restart? That's the question. Because if it doesn't, if it comes to a halt and the core solidifies just a fraction, enough to stop the magneto starting back up again, then we're on a course, and the same fate as what happened to Mars. And Mars is the proof of cores can solidify of planets, and when they do, they lose the magnetosphere, they lose the upper atmosphere, because that's then just set up perfectly for erosion, or as the NASA term for it is sputtering, which is the erosion from solar wind, where it just strips off the upper atmosphere, and then it exposes all the water on the surface to the same fate. And what, we might enjoy these forests that we've got now, rich diversity of green shrubs and grass in our open countrysides, but that can disappear, guys. It really can. It really can. And we don't know if we're that is on the cards, and that is going to happen next. We don't know. No scientist will know. But I always say to myself, it's a bit odd that before the last magnetic completed reversal 780,000 years ago, the Earth regularly went through magnetic reversals every 300 to 350,000 years. This time it's 500,000 years overdue. Shocking. And everyone and all the organisations are just going about the business as though it's normal. It's not even a concern of theirs. They're more concerned about CO2. Well, if the core does shut down and doesn't regain, momentum enough to fire up the magneto, which produces the magnetosphere and obviously the dipoles, the north and south poles, then, we are set to look like Mars. Don't know how many years it would take to get there, but it would certainly be the end of business as normal for us on this planet. You would think that would be a priority of these organisations. That would be something that the United Nations would be concerned about, but for some reason they're not. It's bizarre. One of the biggest and rarest anomalies is at our door, knocking away, and no one's interested in opening that door and taking it face on. If the magnetosphere does weaken anymore, and we have a modest CME, coronal mass ejection, come off the sun, it could knock out all the electrics that we've got. And those near-Earth orbit satellites are just as vulnerable as any electrics here on the surface of the Earth. When they fly at this moment over the South Atlantic anomaly, the weakest magnetic field on our planet, that hole that we've got in the magnetosphere, they have to, on the ISS, power down certain computers. Right now. That's how bad it's got. The satellites rely on the protective magnetic field of the Earth so that they ain't cooking the CPUs on board them spacecraft. So, we're at times where, all the governments around the world are distracted from the real things that they should be concerned about. They've got the green policies in play, which is ridiculous because we know CO2 isn't as important as what they're making it out to be. It's all basically based on hysteria. It really is. We don't need to worry about CO2. CO2 is a trace gas. It's at 440 parts per million, and it's dropping as the months go on. And you can check on our website and just type in the figures of CO2 over the last 2 years and graph it. You'll see the pattern. The pattern will be clear that the CO2 is dropping. And it's not that we've been reducing CO2 because we've gone, almost all electric and, stopping, the use of fossil fuels, because that's not the case. If you look at what China's doing and how many coal plants they are opening up every month, you'll realise that we are actually pumping more CO2 than we ever have done. But it is not affecting the climate like these climatologists are talking about. The only reason they're talking about that is because they've got to. They've got no choice. They've got to sing off the hymn sheet given to them by the governments. And the governments know that it's a stealth tax, that they can get away with taxing businesses and ourselves. And obviously sending money into industries where, they do have a vested interest in themselves. Maybe stocks and shares. Maybe throwbacks. They keep it nice and quiet, and they're never going to broadcast that information ever. But makes me laugh when I see these protesters supergluing themselves to the roads in protest over the amount of CO2. We have people like Greta Thunberg crying her eyes out, worrying more that CO2 is going to kill the future generations off, when she should be more concerned about getting an education herself and learning really what is really of concern with regards to the environment first and the climate, because we wouldn't have to look no further than the magnetic pole reversal, because the weakened magnetosphere, as I've said before, is causing more cosmic rays to become inbound in our upper atmosphere. We get collisions. We monitor some of those subatomic particles that end up on the surface of the Earth in form of muons, and of course they're on the increase. Why is that? Because simply the cosmic rays is on the increase, and we know what that does to the jet streams, don't we? It creates a perfect platform where water droplets can condensate on, and then in turn make those jet streams much wider, much longer, and of course the inevitable takes place with a dislocation of that polar jet stream. It wanders then into subtropics, and of course when that cool air hits the warm moist air that's got plenty of water moisture in there, well, you're going to get, aren't you, a month's worth of rainfall in 24 hours, or even to the extreme extent that we've seen, a year's worth of downpour in 24 hours, breaking 100-year records. But your governments around the world seem to not have the eye on the ball. And there's certainly the organisations that could be talking about such matters. There is no interest, because the money is all in CO2. And you know what? It puts human continuity at risk. It really does. Because there is no plans for the next magnetic pole reversal. They have not set aside transformers which will blow during a moderate X-class flare. They haven't set aside nothing for it. And we've just talked about really the things that affect the Earth and those anomalies, like the weather system. We've not talked about the biodiversity that will be affected across all ranges, with an increase in cosmic rays also leads to an increase in cancer, doesn't it? We already know that cosmic rays can cause cardiac arrhythmias, heart failure. So As time goes on, nothing more gets said about the subject. People will inevitably wake up one day to the bad news, and it might be too late for a lot of people. That's why I say, if you are living in a city right now, for 2 reasons you should leave. Because if we do have a moderate X-class there, half the strength of the Carrington or just a little bit more, it will knock out the electronics of the world. Everything that you're accustomed to using and relying on will be affected, just like those companies that got hacked in the UK in the last week. The hack was that bad, they couldn't even go back to an analog system to keep the companies running. I know someone that was working at one of these companies. They said it was the most eeriest time ever at this company, and they'd been at that company for about 20 years. They said you wouldn't believe it. The phones weren't ringing. They couldn't access the computer systems. They couldn't access anything to do with the company. And one division of the company was losing £1 million a day. That's what it was costing. And they had got backups, but the backup had also been hacked as well at the server. We are too heavily reliant these days on the technology that, as has been proved this last week with a couple of these companies, and even the Royal Navy, believe it or not, you cannot go on as business as normal. And that's because they're too heavily invested in technology. And it's that very technology that's at risk in the future, especially with the ongoing magnetic pole reversal taking place right now. So I say to you, firstly, leave the cities, because 2 weeks without any electronics being usable in those cities, the water will stop pumping to your house, the sewerage will stop leaving your house, there won't be no food in the shops, because it will shut the logistics down of the city completely. Whereas if you are in a rural area somewhere, you've probably got a few chickens, you've probably got some potatoes in the ground growing already, and you've got enough, just enough to scrape by a few months until things can get better. The second reason why you should live out in the rural country is because it's more sustainable. You have got to really start getting used to having a little less technology in your life in order to sail through what is coming, because I guarantee you it is definitely coming. It's like a train. You can see down in the distance there, it's approaching, it's getting bigger every second, it's getting a tiny little bit bigger. You can feel the noise or hear the noise on the rails building up. That train is coming, and if you don't get off the track, you're going to get spanked by that train by the time it gets on top of you. You know it. And it's the same for this anomaly that is happening right now. I'm not trying to frighten you. I'm just saying, don't be in the city with a couple of other million people going through having no food, no water. Because you will, within weeks, if not days, resort to either starving or, dehydrating to death, or you will fight for something, what you need. You just imagine what a mother will do if she can't feed her kids that are crying their eyes out because they're starving. If you're a mother, what you would be prepared to do to put some food on the table for those kids. So first of all, that this anomaly is real, and that these problems are coming. We're going to face them. So it's a matter of whether you're prepared enough right now, you have the motivation, the inclination, and an opportunity to do something right now before it's too late. Because if you're in a city and things go down like we've just described, you can forget selling your property. No one wants to buy a house in a desert, because that's exactly what it will be. You'll be in the queue with another couple of million people trying to emergency sell the property for half the value if you can get your hands on that kind of money at that time. But by then it'll be too late. The money ain't going to help you out. So you can do something about it right now before it happens. Get ahead of the game. So that's what I suggest might be an option for you. But doing nothing is absolutely preparing for nothing. And you've only got yourselves to blame. If you have just listened to me in this video for the last 10-15 minutes and you've not took on board what I'm saying and you think it's okay and that things aren't going to affect you, well, maybe these words will go through your mind when you are seeing people being attacked in the streets for very little, and you wish at that point you did something. I'm trying to help. That's all I'm trying to do here, guys. If you want to help me get the word out to more people, you can do one of two things. You can click on the link in the description for the PayPal, leave us a donation there, or you can become one of our patrons. You know, we've got 175 patrons, and we're giving those patrons everything here with regards to the technical information that we gather through the TriMag and other things like the Earth at a glance, the muon data. So, you know, there's two ways you can help us. If you're not prepared to do something about it yourself, then help somebody that is. Help us here at this observatory. Because this event is happening as we speak. Might not be in full swing at the moment, but it's just a matter of time. Trust me on that. So if you want to help, the two links are there. I'll pin the link for the patrons in the comment section, but I'll also include it in the description along with the PayPal link. You know, come on guys, get behind us here at the observatory. You know, it's worthwhile and for a good cause. I'll say what I usually do. You take care of your loved ones. As always, bye for now.